As high school students, we're taught biology is the study of life. The genome, our genes, code for the proteome, our proteins that make our body. Through advances in molecular and cellular biology, scientists will be able to personalize patient treatment, and it's this road that might lead to a cure for cancer. There's not just one cure. There's probably tens of thousands, and understanding the spatial biology of expressed proteins linked with petabytes of other data, including the genome, might just let us find every single one and target it for every patient. Enable medicine could be the Rosetta Stone that uses computation to create the breakthroughs in research that we need, truly pushing forward modern medicine. Let's get started. Sunil, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
I'd love to start with understanding what is Enable.
The way that you could interrogate biology before, if you took a piece of tissue, there were basically two kinds of questions you could ask that piece of tissue. The first is you could digest it, so break it up into single cells, or even break those cells up and grind it up and look at that milieu and start to monitor what are all of the different biomarkers that exist in that milieu. And based off of that, try to reconstruct what the tissue looked like. So the general idea being you could take the tissue, look at many different parameters, but no spatial information. On the other hand, you could take the tissue, cut it into a very thin slice, and look at a few markers, but get the spatial collocation of those markers. And the reason why that's important is because spatial matters, right? There are certain cells in the body, specifically in the immune system, T cells, macrophages, neutrophils, that only work if they actually physically contact their target to conduct their cytotoxic activity. And so you had this dichotomy. Lots of parameters, no spatial, low parameters with spatial. About a few years ago, this new class of technology existed or was created. And it allowed you to retain the spatial information but look at many parameters.
So this new capability came online, and then, frankly, you guys were able to bring about new algorithms for analyzing the data that was sort of coming back from these.
What's really interesting here is we are capable of generating these maps of disease, really, and indexing them in such a way that you can then query on top of them. And so, what we are trying to do is actually enable biological search.
The reason why I'm super excited about things like this is that we're really taking the capability of computers, which is to be able to take in absolutely terabytes of data, and then tease out the similarities, the connections between them. And in this case, it's, the collaboration between labs is something that clearly should happen. But is a journal going to be smart enough to be able to allow you to publish a single ontology that is usable?
Chance.
A company like Enable has to exist in order to make sure the data is clean and usable. If you can get the data, then that allows for this OS to happen. That a lab in San Francisco can collaborate with one in Mumbai, and you'll just know, hey, we're actually looking at the same thing. And to have that conversation happen means that a therapeutic or our understanding of biology will be pushed forward by leaps and bounds.
Absolutely, because right now the ability to actually combine data sets generated by various labs is actually extremely hard to do, because they're each stored in very bespoke manner. They might not even exist in similar formats. They could be in various parts of their analysis or processing pipeline. So you can't even, even if you did get them, you wouldn't be able to convert them into a way that you could actually compare and contrast. And what we're trying to do here at Enable is really have an end-to-end pipeline here that anyone can use and anyone can then pluck their data out of, so that you can then start to understand what are the assumptions that you made in the analysis process. And if you tweak the parameters, what else could it look like? And just do this across, Last year, we generated a petabyte of this kind of imaging data, right? Like, it's a lot of data.
What's your favorite example of a group or team where your algorithms and analysis have already helped them massively?
A lot of this work is yet to be published, but there are cases where we have found cellular signatures that seem to predict response of a certain drug in a certain disease indication based off of a map that we have created of a disease across a certain cohort of patients. We can say it looks like this small neighborhood of cells, when they interact with one another, seem to predict whether that patient is going to respond to a certain therapy or not. Now, that's interesting. But what's even more interesting is that we can take that neighborhood and look at our indexed database of 5,000 plus different patients with their clinical annotations and see what other patients seem to have that neighborhood embedded in their biology. Because that might then indicate those other diseases should be indications where that drug should go into. And so it's these learnings that you can apply across data sets that we find super valuable, and is the whole reason why we are spending a lot of time indexing this specific biological parameter.
First you found here's this new thing that people are doing and they're struggling with the data. Then you started selling to labs that actually needed a better understanding of that data. And then that sort of brings us into where we're at today, post fundraise, now you have all of the capital and increasingly the people you need to build this third thing, which is the operating system for all the things that might go wrong in an organism.
That's right. So at this point, I think we can say that we have done a V1 of our end-to-end operating system. We have a lab that can generate this kind of data at scale. We have the ability to analyze and actually phenotype these cells and create these maps. And we have the infrastructure to index them with their clinical annotation. We've done this across 100 different active collaborators. We have 5,000 patients in our database across 20 different indications. And I mentioned we also have 14 different publications in various forms of the manuscript. With this fundraise, we're really looking to expand every single piece of the pipeline. Everything from data analysis, everything from data generation. So more of this spatial proteomic data as well as other orthogonal data types. More in terms of the ability to analyze and create models that automate the cellular phenotyping and map generation, as well as more on the infrastructure side to index and actually start to apply queries that programmatically extract biological insights across data sets.
So, everyone talks about trying to come up with a cure for cancer. There is no one cure for cancer. There might be a million different cures for cancer. And, if you actually have the ability to see that or see the different types, you actually might have the chance to create hyper-personalized medicine that sort of brings the state of medicine forward by, a century. I don't know. Yeah. It's like pretty crazy stuff.
You're exactly right. I mean, there's a reason why there's no one drug that cures everyone. It's because all these diseases are slightly different. And what we are trying to do is actually understand, can you quantify those differences? And do those differences then correlate to response for a drug? And the only way to answer this question is by looking at lots of different disease patients and imaging all of them, and then applying all of the outcome data associated with them, indexing this in such a way that you can then start to pluck out commonalities and differences so that you can then start to do exactly what you said, personalized medicine.
That's super powerful, man. Yeah. Obviously you are hiring, and the coolest thing about it is there are lots of places where people can go work, but there aren't that many places that are sort of on the extreme edge of pushing forward what people actually know about, human tissue, for instance.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. We are hiring. I mean, we are hiring at every part of the stack, everywhere from data generation to data analysis, where we need PhDs in biology and computer science, to software engineering. We generated a petabyte of data last year, and the infrastructure required to move and manipulate that amount of data are really only found in the best tech companies out here. And so we need crack software engineers to help build that infrastructure here at Enable as well, for the purpose of indexing and creating the first search engine for biology.
Well, I think that search engine will lead to very awesome personalized medicine. And I think the net benefit is we're all the winner, actually, when that happens. That, my friends, is Enable Medicine. Sunil and his team are incredible, and we are at the dawn of software making a big difference in every walk of life, including the one that could be the key to curing and treating every kind of disease. If you're a software engineer or scientist and want to build the future of collaborative science, please visit enablemedicine.com/careers. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe, and the bell icon right now. We're here to teach you about what's going to be the future of all of tech, and you might be one of the people to build it. I'll see you next week.